Whatever. I don't even know. All right. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get this show on the road. Thank you for joining me today on Surviving the System. This is Dancing Dave, and today I haven't got any kind of an idea of what to talk about. It has been an incredibly difficult couple weeks, and it's been taking everything that I can give, that I can dig up to just keep going on a day-to-day basis. And you know what, that's okay. I mean, that's how life goes. Life isn't always pretty. I talk about that quite a bit. And for the sake of transparency, you know, I'm not going to pretend that everything in my life is always hunky-dory and that everything goes exactly the way it's supposed to, and because it doesn't. So I'm on this journey with you. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly. So we'll talk about it, because it's still a practice in how to get through, how to persevere. And it's a message that I need to remind myself of, and I'm sure you probably need to hear the same things. You know, as we're all struggling with everything that is going on in this world right now. I mean, the quote-unquote system is coming at you from all angles. You know, COVID is supposedly lightening up. I don't really see much of that. Even if you get the vaccine, which that is a topic for another show, you still have to wear the mask and social distance and follow all those guys. It's not doing anything, and you still run the risk of getting COVID and transferring COVID. So I don't see an end in sight. You know, we've got stimulus payments, which everybody is really excited about. That's fantastic, but what is $1,400 one time going to do for someone, and how long is it taken to get to this point? You know, while that money is great, it's our money to begin with. We as taxpayers have put this money out, so we shouldn't feel bad about getting it back. At the same time, that's it. How long is it going to take for the next round? And is this now an exercise in getting us even more dependent on the system and the government and these politicians, instead of remembering who we are and fighting for our own freedom and creating our own reality of wealth and abundance? And the strain that it is putting mentally and emotionally on everyone. I mean, it's been a year now. It's been a year since COVID started, and the cracks are starting to show. I mean, cracks have been showing for quite a while, but now they're really coming apart. It's getting more and more difficult. And what is being done to help with that? Again, how is $1,400 going to help? Suicide rates skyrocketing, the stress and the anxiety that these children in school are experiencing right now. And I mean children kindergarten and first grade, the anxiety that they are experiencing. I'm watching it happen with my 7-year-old daughter. It's crazy. You know, and myself, I mean, shoot, my wife and I have been at each other's throats for the last couple of weeks now. It's been extraordinarily difficult. So this is just going to be an exercise in, I'll air my laundry, so to speak. You know, this is what life is like. This is what life is like working through the system. and then take that, analyze it, put it all together, and just like I try to do with every show, put together some solutions, something productive at the end, so that, okay, well, now that we know things are really difficult, it's not pretty, it's ugly, it's really hard. You're probably struggling just like me. So how do we move forward with this? How do we use this struggle? How do we channel this energy into something more productive? So that's my goal for today. We'll work through this. We'll talk through this. This will be more of some talk therapy for me, if nothing else. And before we get started, as always, want to make sure I keep the energy high, keep the vibration high, the frequency high, as we do tend to talk about some more difficult topics here. And those can drag you down into the mud and just really bring you down mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so we want to try to keep out of that mud. We'll keep up higher. And so I'll start with gratitude. And I am grateful, so grateful, that I have this opportunity to live out my purpose, to be here, to talk to you, and to remind you of who you really are and what you can truly accomplish. I'm in this with you. And without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be fulfilled. I wouldn't be doing what I'm supposed to be here to do. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'd like to take a moment as well and thank a lot of my new listeners, my new audience. I've been connecting with quite a few people online. A lot of people have been reaching out, checking in with me, just saying, hey, I listened to your show. Great feedback. Thank you for that. So thank you all for that. And I have been making a very conscious effort this year to get the word out, to really try to market myself more and to market the show. And part of that is getting out there and interacting with you. And the other part of that is I need to be more vocal about what it is that I want, what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And so I need your help. I need your help to get the word out. You know, if you know someone in your life that maybe is struggling with a lot of these same issues, maybe somebody who has been through the system and just feels like they've been chewed up and spit out in the other end and feels like there's no hope or that they're alone or that they just have no idea what to do. You know, this is the community for them. This is a sounding board for them. So please take some time. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I am up on YouTube and Odyssey now as well. Please take a moment if you at all are interested in watching the videos. It's a work in progress. Bear with me. I've got my graphics team working on a little bit more of a branded background for me, but we will get there. And give me a rating. I'd love it. Comments, feedback, anything, and share the show. You know, just tell somebody else that you feel might get some value out of this. Let them know to check it out, and feel free to interact with me. Shoot me questions, comments, hate mail, whatever it might be. I am more than happy to engage and interact. So yeah, this last couple weeks has been rough. Last week, something felt off. You know those weeks when nothing's really wrong. You're just getting up, going through the motions, everything's okay. You could just kind of feel, man, something doesn't feel right. Maybe it's a premonition. I don't know exactly what to call it. That very well could be it. Sometimes it's, you know, your higher conscious mind giving you that little bit of a warning signal to say, hey, be prepared, be ready. It's coming. Just be aware of that. I wanted to make sure you knew. So, you know, last week was okay. And then over the weekend, all hell broke loose. I mean, I dropped my kids off at daycare on Friday on my way into my day job, and I went to get my son out of the car. My younger son, he's a year and a half at this point, and I went to get him out, and I opened up the door and went to reach for him, and he just looked up at me and just spit up all of his milk all over himself. Oh, that's lovely. So I brought him inside. He didn't have a fever. Nothing else was wrong. He just it was a puke and rally. And then he was like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. And he got down and ran away and played with the cats. And so I didn't really think anything of it, and talked to the daycare provider, and she said the same thing. It's like, he doesn't have a fever. I think maybe he just ate something. I don't know. We'll just keep an eye on him. She said, okay, I'll let you know. Nothing, no problems, nothing the rest of the day. Picked everybody up, went home. Everything's fine. Everybody went to bed. And then about 11:30 that night, I hear my wife from the other room where our girls are sleeping. And I don't even remember what exactly she said. I just heard the tone in her voice, and I went, oh, okay, what's going on? So I jumped up and I ran into the other room just in time to see my 2-year-old throwing up all over the floor. And hers wasn't quite as manageable as my son's. She had a peanut butter and honey sandwich for dinner and washed it down with some juice. So the room smelled like peanut butter puke, and it was red, and it was everywhere, and it was all over the bed, and it was all over the floor, and then she threw up on our bed. It just, if anybody out there has kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it happens. You deal with it. You move on with life. But, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, why is this happening? I just want to get some sleep. I'm so tired. And so we're dealing with her, and she finally falls asleep. And I looked over at my wife, and I was like, hey, do we have Tums or something? I don't know why I have heartburn. We've changed our diet over the last few months, and I almost never have heartburn anymore. Never happens. And I don't know if I ate something bad, or, maybe we're trying some new digestive enzymes. Maybe they're not working really well. I need some Tums. She said, no, we don't have any more. We haven't bought them. I said, all right, well, crap. Let's drink some water. Nope. 5 minutes later, it was my turn. I'm in the bathroom. I'm throwing up all over the toilet. And that thing just knocked me on my butt. I mean, I was down. So my poor wife the next day has to deal with the 2 little ones, the baby and my son, and the 2-year-old and me were just out. We slept on the couch most of the day. I couldn't really sleep. It was just a giant nonstop stomach cramp that would not go away. So I kind of faded in and out of consciousness for a while, and I put a movie on, and my daughter, I'm laying on the couch, right? There's a couch right behind me that you can't see with the background, but I'm laying there. My daughter is asleep on my legs. She actually slept, thank goodness. My son was over here playing video games, watching movies, so we were all doing fine. And it seemed to just be a 24-hour bug, because later that evening started to wear off on me. My daughter got up and had a little bit more energy and at least wanted something to drink. And then our 7-year-old comes in and says, Mommy, my stomach hurts. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Yep, sure enough. So my wife and I were up all night with the 7-year-old. Just this stomach bug was the most contagious stomach bug I have ever seen in my life. It spread like wildfire. So my 7-year-old was down and out. I at least had some more energy the next day. Not 100%, but maybe like 75, 80%, so I could get up and move around and at least help. And So we got through that day. Everybody's still kind of recovering. Everybody's just wiped out. Nobody's been sleeping. And then, so we finally got some sleep. Okay, good. We're resting. 6 o'clock in the morning. My oldest, my 15-year-old, comes upstairs. Okay, I just puked. Like, okay, I can't go into work now because this is obviously extraordinarily contagious, and I don't want to bring that into the office. Not to mention, we had been quarantining because we had an outbreak of COVID, and we were waiting for that to subside. The last thing that I wanted to do was bring in this wildfire stomach bug. So I'm trying to work from home. And then my son gets it the next day, and it just one after the other. I mean, like dominoes, everybody fell. So we're running on fumes, no sleep. We're all physically just wiped out, not because of just the not sleeping, but because of this virus, this bug, whatever the heck it was. I mean, stomach bugs, you've probably had one at some point in your life. They take a lot out of you, and it takes a couple of days to recover from that. And then you just mix it all together. And I'm trying to work from home, which has its pluses. And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to work from home, where I can just say, you know what, I probably shouldn't come into the office, so I'll just stay home and I'll work on my computer here and work off my cell phone. I'm very fortunate for that. It can be really difficult sometimes, though. It's not easy. So that added stress on top of everything else. And then on top of all of this, now I'm pushing myself way outside of my comfort zone. And this, I think, is very pertinent to talk about, because tying all of this together, especially when you're talking about people in reentry or people that are just trying to overcome whatever obstacles they feel are in their past, whatever hindrances they feel that they may have that are holding them back from the life that they truly want, that they feel that they deserve. So, your comfort zone. I do a podcast because I don't have to worry about being seen, I guess. I have a good radio voice. I've been told that plenty of times. There's a reason that I work on the phones for my day job mostly. I speak very well. I've worked very hard at it. So I'm very okay with saying that. It's not something that I say with any arrogance. It's something that I say because I know that this is my skill set, because I've worked very hard at it. I speak very well. I can stand up in front of a group of people. I can stand up in front of a group of 5 to 10 people and speak in a very intimate environment, or I can stand up and do a presentation to a group of 50 to 100 people, whatever it is. Or I can pop a microphone in front of my face and I can talk to myself and send it off to Joe, have Joe clean up the audio a little bit, slap some music on the beginning and the end, and put it out there for you to listen to. And so far that's been going pretty well, so thank you all for that. But, you know, I was listening to podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. That's part of the other reason I'm doing a podcast too. And I was listening to Joe Roop, the owner of The Fringe, who was being interviewed on some other podcasts. And he made a comment on one. He was talking specifically about how he loves radio. He loves the medium of radio. And I agree. And you can just hear the passion in his voice talking about just how much he loves radio. But he made the comment, he said, yeah, I've got a YouTube channel too, just because there are some people that will only listen on YouTube. And that really struck me because, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm making a very concerted effort, a very conscious effort to grow my show and to get out there more. And boy, that was the universe saying, hey, yeah, you got to get some video going too. And right after I listen to that, then I do my show with Micah Dank, which if you haven't had the chance to listen to that from last week, please do listen. And that was my first ever video. So go to YouTube, search for Surviving the System. I'll put it in the show notes as well. Please take a listen. But it had to be done on video. It had to be, because he very specifically wanted to go over his presentation on astrotheology in the scripture. Or excuse me, astronomy in the scripture, and astrology and the symbolism. And it was fascinating, but it had to be done on video because he had that presentation that we had to walk through step by step. So listening to it is fantastic. There's a lot you can get from it, but if you have an opportunity, go watch the video. So those two things back to back, you know, when you start to listen and pay attention, you know when the universe is really trying to talk to you. It's very, very obvious. And that was very obvious for me. So I'm blowing Joe up on Messenger for days. Hey, I got an idea. Hey, I got this. Okay, hey, I got my YouTube channel going. Can we audit or can we edit video? Like, how do I even do this? What am I supposed to do with this thing? And I'm talking to my graphics team, and I'm like, hey, man, I don't have a background. Can you make me something? I don't know what to do with this. So I'm scrambling to put this all together. And, of course, one of my big concerns is that going out on YouTube, with some of the people that I talk to, with the crowd that I run in now especially, and some of the topics that I have talked about and will continue to talk about, I will eventually get kicked off of YouTube. I have come to accept that fact, and I'm okay with that. So that's part of the reason that I also set up on Odyssey as well. If you haven't heard of Odyssey, it's very, very similar to YouTube. There's just no censoring that goes on at all. So it's like YouTube used to be, where you can say what you think and let the audience determine if it's worthwhile and valuable or not. So that's making me really nervous. Really nervous. I don't like my face being shown. I don't. And it's one of my hang-ups. And it's obviously something that I have to overcome. Otherwise, the universe wouldn't be telling me to put my face out there and do a video. So, you know, again, candidly, for sake of transparency, I don't hold anything back. If you haven't listened to much of my show for a while, if you're somewhat new, yeah, go back and listen to some of my past episodes where, you know, I really talk a lot about myself, or I interview some people that I know particularly, some friends and coworkers and associates that I've met, but I'm not going to hold anything back. You know, my dirty laundry is out there for everybody to see. So I don't like my face being shown, because the last time my face was shown on any kind of media, I lost a lot of friends. I wound up having to check myself into protective custody in county jail because the news media is not very kind or accurate in their reporting, especially when it comes to crime reporting. So yeah, the last time my face was out there, it was not fun, and I have flashbacks of that, I guess. So I have to overcome that, but that's stirred all of that up. And part of the process of growing and evolving and developing yourself, we call it, you know, personal development, self-development, self-help, whatever you want to call it. You have to start with identifying your comfort zone. Where are these areas that you've grown comfortable? Because nothing great was ever accomplished by being comfortable. Nobody ever changed the world by sitting on the couch watching TV. That's really comfortable. You're never gonna accomplish your goals by doing that, unless your goal is to be a couch potato and watch TV for the rest of your life and never do anything. But I really doubt that that's what your goal is. So you have to identify your comfort zones. And it applies to different areas in your life. You know, what's your comfort zone as it relates to relationships and to love? And what's your comfort zone as it relates to your relationship with God, your creator, the spirituality? What's your comfort zone as it relates to your physical body? You know, your health, food, exercise, supplementation, things like that. Where are you comfortable? And then once you identify where you're comfortable, your comfort zones are, you kind of overlap your goals. You say, here's where I'm at right now, but here's the goals that I'm trying to achieve. Here's where I want to get to. And then you kind of deconstruct it and you work backwards. And you say, for example, I'm going to use this. I typically refer back to physical examples because those are the easiest to relate to, because all of us have probably at some time or another struggled with something like that, wanted to get in better shape, wanted to eat better. So it's an easy one to relate to. The numbers are easy. The images that it draws up in your mind are very relatable. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to stick with an easy reference. Let's say that you want to lose 15 pounds. You know, like you weigh 200 pounds, you want to get down to 185. That's your ideal weight. So right now, you're comfortable at 200. You're comfortable not exercising enough, maybe not eating properly like you should. There's something that's in there that's keeping you from this 200. So once you've or from that 185. So once you've identified where you're at now, then you can put together the plan to get to where you want to get to that 185. And that plan might be, all right, I need to exercise 5 days a week. Maybe I'm going to hire a personal trainer. Maybe I'm going to go to a gym, a CrossFit gym, and get some nutrition counseling as well. Or, you know what, maybe I'm going to take some supplementation and I'm going to get myself, just all of those different things to help you get there. And you've probably experienced this at some point in your life. The first couple of days, you're all kinds of motivated. You're like, yeah, let's go. This is great. I got this. Oh, man, I'm so sore. I love that feeling. Yeah. And then day 3 or 4, maybe 5, somewhere in there, you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, you know, maybe I'm just going to take today off. My leg's really sore, and I don't want to push too hard because I might injure myself. So I'm just going to take today off. And then I'll get back to it tomorrow. I'll be fine. I'll be all right. I'll get back to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you're like, man, my leg, I don't know. I'm still kind of sore. I should probably let this rest. I don't want to go at it too hard right out of the gate because that could be bad too. So I'll just rest. I'll rest some more. And then I'll hit it again tomorrow. And then the next thing you know, you're just right back to where you were before because that's where you're comfortable. Now, there's a lot more that goes on with that at an unconscious level and your limiting beliefs and how they all tie in there. But the point here being, once you've identified your goals and where you want to get to, and as you start moving towards those new goals, you are going to stir up all of your insecurities, all of your past limiting beliefs that people have told you of, how exercise is never going to work, you're never going to be thin, you don't have the right body type for it, you don't have the genetics for it, I know a friend who tried that once too and it just didn't work for them, and all of the doubt and all of that crap is going to get stirred up and it's going to go on in your head, and you are your own worst enemy until you can break through that breakdown. But that breakdown is going to come. It will come. There is no way around it. And I am right smack dab in the middle of a breakdown right now. So I am trying to push through to get past it. So, yeah, stirring up all kinds of stuff in me, putting my face out there. I mean, right now, if you're watching me on video, this hat that I'm wearing, this is my stocking cap. It's a little chilly in my house right now. It's not horrible. I'm down in the basement. Not a big deal. I just felt like wearing it today. Plus my hair. Here, see. I have hat hair, so yeah, I'm wearing the hat. This is my prison hat. I got this hat when I was at D&E. I've worn this hat through hell and back. And I keep it as a reminder because, well, number one, it's a nice hat. Like, it's really comfortable, and I like it. But it helps me when I put it on. I can shift my mindset back to when I was inside, and that strength that I found in there, and that perseverance that I found in there. That's part of why I've got it on right now, because I remember how hard that was, and this is cake compared to that. I mean, I'm sitting here complaining about the fact that, oh no, my podcast is doing really good and I'm growing an audience, and now I have to do videos so I can grow a bigger audience and start making money at this. Oh no, oh, horrible. Oh, this is so terrible. Woe is me. I mean, let's be realistic about it. I'm being whiny, and I understand that, and that's okay. You know, it is what it is. It happens to the best of us. I'm keeping it all in perspective. Things come up, you take them, you deal with them, you look at them, you analyze it, you figure out what's going on with it, why is it coming up, you address it, and you move on. So I know why these things are coming up, and that's part of the process. And I go through and I explain this in detail because I watch a lot of my friends go through the same thing. You know, and not, the funny thing is, it's not just the people who are in reentry or the people that I met while I was inside in prison and are now back out in the community and trying to go after their own goals and their own dreams, and the shit that gets stirred up with them, the baggage that comes from having to be in prison, and the social stigma that comes with that. It can weigh heavy on you at times. But not even those people. I see more perseverance from that community than I do normal day-to-day regular people. And I use the quotation marks because, I mean, who's really regular? So I watch people take so much pride in things like showing up early to work at 7 a.m. and staying late and getting home at 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's, oh, look how hard I'm working. But at what sacrifice? You know, and some of these are people that have like families, kids, husbands, wives. And there's that part of me that's like, what are you doing? Why are you not spending some time with your family? What are you running from? You know, I remember a story that my friend Steve told me once. And he told me this story because I was telling him about all of the things that I'm trying to accomplish. And, hey, and I think this was back when I was just about to start the podcast. And I said, oh, I'm going to do this podcast, and oh, I'm going to get up and I'm going to work out, and I'm going to change my eating, and oh, I got my nonprofit, and I'm doing all this, and I'm doing that, and doing this, and told him everything I said. And he said, you know, David, let me tell you a story. I remember years ago, I decided I wanted to train for a marathon. Steve is a runner. He's got the runner's build. He's very thin, very athletic, but he's been a runner for most of his life. And he said, I decided I wanted to train for a marathon. And I got up at 4 a.m. every day and ran, I don't even remember how many miles he said he ran every day, and this ultra strict diet that he was on to make sure that he was only eating the right foods and getting the appropriate amount of calories, but not empty calories, making sure it was food that he needed. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And then he would run again in the evening. And he was running twice a day and just running constantly. All the time he was running, and he was pushing himself, and he was pushing himself. And, you know, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, oh, this is all so fantastic. I'm pushing so hard. I'm working towards this goal. I'm going to make it. I'm going to achieve it. I'm going to sacrifice everything I need to get to where I want to go, and I'm going to get there. And his coach just very quietly listened to him. And as soon as Steve finished, and he said, well, what do you think? And this gentleman just very calmly looked at Steve and said, Steve, what are you running from? And I remember how impactful that was for me, listening to Steve tell that story of how impactful that was to him. So I sit and I watch all of these people push and struggle and slave. For what? What are you hiding from? What are you running away from? And that's the same question that I ask myself through all of this process, which I am fortunate enough that I have the tools to be able to answer that for myself. I know what I'm running away from. I'm running away from my insecurities about my past and my limiting beliefs of myself and my self-worth. And that's okay. Recognition is the first law of learning and transformation. I recognize those things. Now I can work on them. But it's messy. It's not fun. It's not easy at all. You know, having to look at yourself in the mirror or on a video. I'm staring right at myself on this video right now. It'll look like I'm looking at you. I'm looking at myself right now, which is really, really weird. But looking at myself and saying, all right, what exactly is going on in your head? What are you thinking when you start to freak out about these videos going out? What is it that is so triggering for you to think about this show growing and expanding and getting a new audience? What is so horrible about it? And it's a deep topic. Like, that's a whole other topic that I need to go through myself, because I'm still digging, you know. There's layers upon layers upon layers. So I'm struggling with all of that, growing my show, getting myself out there, trying to get to be a guest on other people's podcasts, to go on and get more exposure for myself and for my show, and to tell my story and to inspire others and to bring hope to the hopeless. And then we have more issues with the kids. One kid in particular. And I'm going to be very careful about what I say, because I don't have her permission to tell this story. So I'm not going to reveal all of the details. But my 15-year-old is having a tough time. You know, I remember being a teenager, and I remember thinking how unfair life was, and how my mom didn't understand anything, and oh, they don't know what it's like to be me, and oh, they just don't get it. I remember all of it. It's a normal process. But there comes a point when sometimes some things can be not normal. Sometimes things can be a cry for help. You know, not any kind of suicidal tendencies. We'll just get that out there right there. But still, there's other things to watch for. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes something happens and you're just like, that's not right. that can lead down the wrong path, and I need to address that right now. And that's where we're at. And unfortunately, we are a mixed family. So my oldest is from a previous marriage. So you've got the other house that she stays in the majority of the time, and how they handle raising and disciplining her. And then she comes over here, and we have different ways of raising and disciplining her. And then even within that, you have the subsection of my wife and I disagreeing about how we should specifically discipline her. And those disagreements are very vocal and very heated, to put it very, very quietly, I guess. It's been ugly, you know. That's another one of those situations where you watch all of the insecurities of not only yourself, but of other people just all come up all at one time. You know, so I've got all of my insecurities and my feelings of guilt coming up because my daughter is struggling, and thinking of how I'm not doing enough and I haven't done enough. And, oh my dear God in heaven, what kind of scars did I leave on this poor girl when I was gone for 18 months out of her life, and she couldn't see me and had to talk to me over the phone, you know, for 10, 15-minute increments. You know, that stirs up a lot in me. And then it stirs it all up in everybody else. So my ex, of course, it stirs it up in her. And my wife, it stirs it up in her, because we all care about my daughter. But these instances still, the premise of projection, the psychological premise of projection, the theory of projection, when I talk about it quite a bit. If you're not familiar with it, or even just as a quick refresher, repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. The theory of projection is that if something is bothering you about someone else, you are projecting your insecurities onto that person. So you're not really triggered or upset at that person. You are triggered or upset because they are reflecting back things about you that you don't like, or the things that you haven't completely processed or dealt with. And when you have kids, that's the perfect example. So my daughter right now and her struggles, all of the other family members right now, we're all projecting all of these things onto her. So you've got my ex who's projecting all of her bullshit onto my daughter. And you've got my wife who's projecting all of her bullshit onto my daughter. And then you've got me who's projecting all of my bullshit onto her. And then I'm projecting my bullshit onto my wife, and she's projecting her bullshit onto me. And everybody's just projecting all kinds of shit all over the place. And it's stressful. It's really freaking hard. It's really, really, really freaking hard. And when I can sit down and quietly just think, I go back to what I know to be true. And what I know to be true is we tend to make things all about us. And as a coach, this is something that you begin to be very aware of, because when you're sitting down to talk with someone else, you have to be very, very cognizant and conscious of projecting your shit onto your client. And instead of projecting onto them, just listen and let them be. Wherever they are at that moment, it's okay. There is nothing wrong with them as a person. Whatever struggles they're going through says absolutely nothing about their worth as a human being. And I know that to be true because I've learned that about myself. And that's something that I try to impart back onto you to learn, is that no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what struggles you have, no matter what ugliness there may be in your past, it's okay. It says nothing about your worth as a person. And so as I sit down and I quietly contemplate and I remember that, and then I try to go and explain that to my wife, and I get all kinds of triggered again. And she starts projecting her shit onto me, which makes me want to project my shit back on her, and it just devolves into chaos and screaming and throwing things and slamming doors, and it's ugly. It's a messy process, you know. It's not pretty. And I'm mature enough to go back and apologize, of course, and say, look, I'm really sorry. I'm obviously not communicating well enough. Let's try it a different way. That way it didn't work either. Yelling, screaming, throwing, slamming doors. Come back and try it again. You know, and you keep trying. You keep going at it, because there's a quote, and I'm gonna mess it up because I can't remember it specifically. So please do not quote me specifically on this. We'll look it up at a later time and figure it out. But I believe it's a quote by Thomas Edison where he says, I didn't fail 99 times. I just learned 99 ways to not do something. So right now I am in the thick of learning what not to do. That's all that it is. You know, this is just the universe helping and guiding and saying, okay, let's try this a different way now. That's not how you're supposed to deal with this. No, quit slamming the door. No, quietly close it this time. There you go. Now let's learn how to do this better. Now go back and apologize to your wife. Let's try it again. And that's where we're at. You know, but this is real life. I mean, this is what people go through on a day-to-day basis. You know, and my target audience is people who've been through the system in some form or fashion. I don't even necessarily mean the prison system. That's probably my ideal target market, but if you're that person that has been through the system in some form or fashion and been a victim of it, maybe like the financial system, the medical system, even the legal system to some extent, but maybe you were never arrested or never had to go to prison or jail or anything like that, you know what I'm talking about. It's an extra layer of just crap that you have to deal with in life. But everybody deals with this stuff. Everybody does. Everybody has to go through the struggle. Everybody has to try to strive for their goals, and then they start the breakdown. And you either persevere through and you have your breakthrough moment, and then at that point you've leveled up. You've made it one step closer to your goal. You've improved, you've changed, you've developed as a person, as a unique human being. Or you go back to being comfortable and try it again another time. And it's okay. That's just learning another way not to do it. If that way didn't work, try it a different way the next time. And I am in the process of learning how to do this show better. how to do life better. Because right now, I'm doing okay, but I want to be better. I want to keep striving to not be complacent with where I'm at. And now I'm having my breakdown moment. And this is how you get through it. You identify where you're at, and you prepare for the breakdown. If you're prepared, if you know it's going to happen, then you're ready to get through it. If you were going to take a trip in your car and you knew that halfway through your trip you were going to get a flat tire, you would leave with a spare or a replacement tire. And you would be ready for that trip because you would know, all right, halfway through, I'm going to have to change the tire so I can make it to my destination. It's the journey. It's how it is. I have a flat tire right now, and that's okay. I brought spares. I knew this was going to happen. So I bring all of this up because I want you to know that I'm just as human and fallible as the next person. Obviously very fallible. I'm no different from anybody else out there, prison record or not. We all go through the same struggles. Whether you have kids or not, you know exactly what I was just talking about at some point through that conversation. Something has been stirred up in you, and you have gone, oh my God, what is going on with me right now? Or you have worked towards a goal, and you've had to fight through that struggle. And you've had to deal with all of the voices inside of your head telling you why you're not good enough and why you can't do this, and just go back to, it was so much easier doing it the other way. Why are you doing this? This is so difficult. Just keep going. And I'd like to end with just a quick reminder of a poem by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. I'm not going to read the whole poem, but I recommend that you do. I highly recommend that you go read it. It's one of my favorites in life, ever. There's a lot of layers of meaning to the poem. But the reason that I bring it up right now is the message that it's conveying to not go without a fight. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. Rage against the dying of the light. And that's my emphasis. Fight it. Don't just let death overtake you. Don't sit on your ass until you go and have accomplished nothing with your life. Don't let that light die out. Get up, get off your ass, do something, and realize that it's going to be freaking hard. And that is why you have to rage against it. Rage against the machine. Sleep now in the fire. Don't forget you can visit me online, www.survivingthesystem.org. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/survivingthesystem. On Twitter at STS the podcast. I'm much more active on Twitter. I do post on Facebook and I do monitor the page. So if you send me a message on Facebook, if that's your preferred medium, I will absolutely respond to you there. Twitter, I'm always on Twitter. I have everything on my phone, so I get the notifications wherever you try to contact me. I just happen to be most active on Twitter right now because that's a little bit more conducive of an environment for me to work in than Facebook. Again, also on YouTube and Odyssey now, just search for Surviving the System. I will put the link in the show notes. If you prefer to send me a message through the website, please feel free to. I do have a Contact Us page there. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But do reach out. I like to hear from you guys. I like to hear from you and your feedback. I like to know what's working. I like to know what's not. And I like to know that you're out there. And if you have a story that you need to tell, if you have a friend or a family member who maybe has struggled and persevered, and their story needs to be told, this is the platform for it. Don't hesitate to reach out at all. I'm always here. So thank you very much for joining me this week. And as always, keep your head up. Don't let them get you.